it's loading. What I did is I saved it to a different location. I don't know if the VPN was playing around with it or something, but
it just says live on YouTube right now on the upper left corner of my screen.
Okay, it looks like it's loading and.
We're live. We're live on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
So let's call the Plan Commission to order. And item B, will be a roll call?
Yep. Katie or Tony, could you guys read the, here, let me go to the next slide here. There we go. Okay.
All right, roll call. Dan Devine.
Here.
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Kathleen Dagenhart. Ben Holt. John Keckeisen. Amanda Nowak.
Here.
Rossi Menka. David Roshka.
Here.
Eric Torkelson.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Item C will be approval of the minutes from our April meeting.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Commissioner Eric.
Yes.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Was that Brian? Second by Brian Frank. Any adjustments to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll move to item D, number 2, site and landscaping architectural plans for Aspen Dental. Katie?
Yes, thanks. All right. So Aspen Dental, you guys have seen this proposal before, but just to revisit, they're proposing a new construction on the Office Max site. It'll be about 3,500 square foot building, and they intend to start construction this summer and finish by the end of the year. Do you have the slides? Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yep. There we go.
Aspen Dental is doing general dentistry. They'll be open Monday through Friday with about 7 to 8 employees and approximately 25 patients a day. Oh, and just for the chat, Kathleen is saying that she's here. She was on mute for roll call, so make sure that she was kind of for. All right, so just looking at this project history, we saw this project in January and February of this year. And some of the concerns that we had when it was denied in February were the building location, some of the site landscaping improvements, the existing non-conforming sign, some of the building materials that were being proposed, and the architectural design. So we'll go through each of those and what's the updates on what's been happening since February. So if you, on the left side is what the previous building location was. And staff did not feel like this was meeting what the expectation of current development along Highway 100 is, what we're trying to build for, and what our general design guidelines call for, which is bringing buildings closer to the street. So as you can see on the right-hand side, this is the current proposal. The building has been brought up to near Highway 100, while still accommodating all of the requirements that property owners have with their lease with Office Max and with the Blaze Pizza. There is, as you can see on this site, still the existing non-conforming sign, so we will get to that. But other things just to point out that there's a decent amount of landscaping on this site, and the pedestrian walkway connecting the two uses as well. So one of the concerns we had was previously was about a lack of landscaping on the remainder of the site. And that is being addressed in this current proposal in a two-phase approach. So first they will do the area around Aspen Dental, and then later the excuse me, the remaining portion of the site. So looking at the phase 1 plan, there is significant landscaping around the Aspen Dental building, around the refuse enclosure, which is within that pedestrian walkway area, and around that existing sign. They are also proposing to put a retaining wall along Cleveland Avenue. And all that work will be done in conjunction with the actual building and construction of Aspen Dental. Looking to phase 2, the applicant has provided some added perimeter landscaping and some interior landscaping. Much needed on this site, as you can see in the photograph. It's really just a lot of concrete at this time. So those improvements will be greatly helpful for that site. Staff is requesting a more detailed plan, just identifying the specific species and number of plantings in terms of landscaping, confirming what that internal percentage is, just to make sure that it meets our guidelines. And then having a discussion about some sort of pedestrian connection within the site, maybe some pedestrian lighting. I just included this example. This is across the street. So some of you can see pedestrian connections with the sidewalks and smaller pedestrian scale lighting. Obviously, this is a much bigger site, and this is not quite the level of what we would be expecting to see on a smaller site like the Aspen Dental and Office Max site, but just a general kind of concept of look and feel. So in the request, the applicant did request to have 5 years to complete the phase 2, which aligns with when the current Office Max lease would end. Office Max does have the option to renew for 5 years after that. And we're proposing to put down a $25,000 surety bond to cover those costs. Our code calls for plan implementation being completed within 2 years, and a surety bond or letter of credit for 125% of the estimated costs. And at this time, staff is recommending that we align our recommendations to follow that code. So one of the notable items on this site that we've talked about previously is the existence of a non-conforming sign. And the applicant is requesting that we approve this plan with the non-conforming sign remaining in place until such time that the Office Max lease expires or is terminated. It could be, assuming they go through the end of their lease periods, it could either be 4.5 years or 9.5 years. Typically, we would not recommend a site to be approved with a nonconformity remaining on it. However, Office Max has made it clear to the applicant that they will not sign off on the completion of this project if that sign is not in place. And so really, it's a question of, we're being asked to make a judgment call about what we value more, if we want to see this site improved or if we want to see that sign gone. So while typically it wouldn't be a recommendation, we do think that having all these other conditions of approval be met and seeing the site really be improved, that the overall benefit to the community will outweigh the variance of this non-conforming sign approval. We would ask that as part of this approval, it be noted that no additional freestanding sign will be permitted until that sign is gone. As a site is not permitted to have more than one freestanding sign anyway, and we wouldn't want to have both, two signs and also one of them being non-conforming to begin with.
Okay.
So another issue that we originally had was with the design of the building, specifically the rear, the one that says on the bottom left-hand corner that says visible from Highway 100. It was really just more of a three-sided architectural design building instead of a four-sided building. But because of the high visibility of all sides of this, we really wanted to see that improve. So Steve, you can go to the next slide, please. Just as a comparison, this was what the previous rear elevation was, and the bottom is the current one. So we're definitely happy with that improvement and think it'll very nice. The original plans also were EFIS, which have now been replaced with a fiber cement panel. Otherwise, the materials are remaining the same, which staff was also happy with. So some metal coping along the roof line, metal paneled awnings, brick veneer, stone veneer, and aluminum windows.
Okay.
So this was in your staff report, but just as a recap of there's a lot of items in here. So the building location, has been improved and staff supports that, as well as the phase 1 landscaping. With phase 2, we would just like to get some more details and maybe a little stronger of a pedestrian inclusion on that plan. We are recommending a 2-year timeline for this phase 2, 25% bond. We are supporting the remaining non-conforming sign and are also having no additional comments about the building materials or architectural design.
Okay.
So I can take any questions that anyone might have. Also, Kurt and Robert are both on the line to answer questions as well.
Thanks, Katie. Are there any questions from the members of the commission?
Nope.
I don't know if Robert or Kurt have anything that they'd like to add.
Sure.
Thanks, Katie. I do not. I think you did a great job covering it. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no discussion, then will anybody be willing to make a motion to approve or?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Brian Frank,
I'll second Kathleen.
Kathleen Degenhardt with the second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item carries. Thank you, and thanks again for your patience, everyone. We will now move on to items 3A, 3B, Folly's Pub and Field House.
Thank you, Mayor.
Field Trip, sorry.
Yeah, so the Folly's field trip, Paul Budiak and Christine Budiak are on the line as well. Here representing their business. For item 3A and B, this is a special use for an outdoor extension of premise at the existing cavern property, as well as 2 other properties which happen to be parking lots, which abut to the north, to the left-hand side of that image. So you have the bar property on the picture there, and the parking lot, accessory parking lot that goes with that bar property. And then to the north, each row of parking is basically its own lot. So there's 3 lots involved. And given the current pandemic and social distancing requirements and best practices, they're trying to get ahead a little bit of, or at least adapt to the separations that are going to continue to exist and the limited occupancy capacities of within buildings. And to maintain proper social distancing, they're hoping to hopefully convert their parking lot from a parking lot to that of an outdoor beer garden and patio, where people within the building are going to be basically you can't separate the tables and still maintain the same level of capacity of patrons within the building. So they're hoping to sort of bring that outside again, just to sort of help balance the effects on the bottom line in terms of profit and just get through the immediate times that we're facing with the pandemic. The outdoor extension of premise, the reason why we're going through a special use process is that the outdoor extension of premise within the C2 district does require a special use permit. This bar has always been just a bar that you go into and you enjoy within the place and you park outside. There isn't an existing beer patio outside or anything like that. So that's the reason for the special use. These are the lots involved. It's on 81st Street, just south of Greenfield Avenue. So all the properties here involved are zone commercial. As mentioned, this outdoor dining does require a special use permit, as well as a license before the Common Council. This would be going before a public hearing on June 16th. And the term of use that we're talking about here isn't year-round. It's more of a seasonal use. What Mr. Budiak field trip has indicated is basically May through September. Now, of course, that may be adjusted by the Common Council if Council wants to go a little further. It may earlier or later. It could be April through October, for instance. But what Mr. Budiak is volunteering is May through September. And the hours would be basically 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Again, all of this would be for consideration before the Common Council as well. This is another view submitted by the applicant, basically showing, the bar, the field trip building, which is in black, the location of that, and then the parking lots around it. To the north, you have the green dashed area which could be used for a tent. There would also be a band on the eastern side of that lot. There's 14 tables shown on that lot. Those are picnic tables that would accommodate up to 6 persons per table. And then south of that, another, I guess, a tent area behind the building. And then to the south of the building, a few tables south of the building. So again, all of this is really, it's fairly conceptual, but I guess the business is looking to for some flexibility, for some allowance in this current time that we're in, given the rules that are being imposed upon places similar to the field trip in Paulie's Pub. This is just a closer detail of what a tent could look like south of the building, measuring basically 30 by 20 or 600 square feet. And then the tents can actually be equipped to offer separations within the under the canvas. Basically, each table again being separated 6 feet from the bar area, from individual tables, and then those areas can also be further screened off as needed within that space. So we are recommending approval, subject to the conditions within the staff report, basically indicated here. This will require a public hearing, so that's condition 1. The part 2 is that we're asking for an updated site plan, some details, and basically going over the operations to indicate, where waste receptacles and recycle containers are going to be located, how many. We're also looking for some barricades at the driveways to basically ensure that someone doesn't mistakenly pull in off of 81st Street and run into some picnic tables or worse, some people. A basic lighting plan, if there are any plans for that. And then third or fourth, screening considerations for not only, I guess, waste areas, but with those properties to the east, surrounding properties. We want to ensure that this doesn't generate problems for the surrounding neighborhood. And then the third point there is that we're asking for a certified survey map. Ideally, I know this is a temporary use, but I guess if this were to be something more permanent, we would definitely want these 3 properties converted into one, so there's just one lot of record. So those are the points that I guess we're offering, and certainly there's room here for discussion. And Paul and Christine are on the line too, I believe. So if they have any points they wish to clarify, any things they wish to say, I guess we're up for discussion.
Thanks, Stephen. Just for our agenda, this is also taking up item 4 as well?
Item 4 is a separate property entirely, so I think we should take that separately.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or Polly, Christine, do you have anything to add or any questions from the commission?
Just to tie that other parking lot together, it would be where that would be, it wouldn't be used all the time. It would just be for if we would have a band or something to give us flexibility for that, for the social distancing. We like the idea that tent kind of behind there. Station 6 has a really cool pergola, so something maybe in the future like that would look really good behind Field Trip. But because we have been down for a while, we don't want to go into debt that much that way to do this. But this would really give us an opportunity during summer, especially with absolutely nothing else going on and social distancing. It would give us some flexibility to do different things. We've always pretty much been a steward of the community and followed the rules and try to work as much as we can with everybody. So we think that would be something that would bring something to the community. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
These tents are temporary, right? I mean, they go up for a day and they come down, or are they permanent? Some of them, the way that arena rentals, more like the one, if there was ever a tent in the middle, that would be like a temporary, like a 2 or 3 day thing. The one in back, arena rentals, is kind of like in the same case as everybody else. They're worldwide. Everything has been canceled for them. So they're also kind of looking, I'll give you an idea what we do on our main lot. We do once a year, like an outdoor thing for 3 days, and their price they're looking at giving tents for are like 1/5 of the cost that we usually pay for 3 days for a whole month. So they want to, and that's one thing that we had talked about. Maybe we be the guinea pig. So if other places in West Allis want to do this, we can kind of see how this works as far as going through all the stages, so that it would be easier for someone else to come in and go, it'd be really nice to be able to do this without paying $50,000 for a pergola. Try this, see how it works, and then kind of go from there. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yep.
Any other questions from the commission?
Mayor Devine, this is Eric. I had a question for staff.
Go ahead, Eric.
Steve, have any notifications been sent out to the neighborhood regarding this, this proposal? And if so, what's been the feedback?
No feedback. No feedback yet, but there is, as part of the special use, there is definitely a notice that's mailed out to property owners within 200 feet, and additionally, it's published within the official paper. Posted on our website and so on. So I mean, it's out there. I haven't heard of any comments yet, but certainly there is still time for that leading up to the public hearing on June 16th.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Any other questions from the commission?
No.
Steve, you mentioned in the recommendations for screening with those neighboring properties, and I was just curious if they do they currently have any sort of screening or fence along the property line there, or is that?
There's more or less, I think, a chain link fence, and just some random volunteer growth in that area, but it's primarily just a short fence in that area to the east.
Yeah, on the east end, there's a wood one that's gonna be repaired. So as we go from our property line on the corner to the southeast corner of Field Trip up to Paulie's, there'll be I think it's like a 6 or 8 foot fence that's there right now that will be repaired. And we can put another one like that on the south end of Field Trip too. So if that's an issue.
Any other questions? If not, I'll ask if anyone wants to make a motion to approve.
This is Commissioner Eric Torkelson, and I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on
Who's
the,
our second?
hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you.
Who did I have for a second on that? Was it Brian?
Brian and Eric, Eric and Brian.
Thank you.
And now we will move to item 4, Paulie's Pub and Eatery.
All right. Okay. So with the Paulie's proposal, the difference here is it's a similar concept. Parking lot becomes a outdoor patio area. And the difference is that Paulie's Pub actually does have a special use currently for an extension of premise. So there's not the need for a public hearing in this case. That's been done already in the past for that outdoor extension. So there is a basic site plan that's been put together here to show the layout. So you've got the Paulie's Pub property in black. Attached to that, there is an outdoor patio along the side and front of the building. And then basically the rest of the property is laid out where you see the parking lots in yellow would be a standing or seating area, kind of like a bring your own lawn chair location. Again, people being encouraged to stay separated. If they do bring their own lawn chair or standing room, just stay separate, 6 feet. And then a tent with tables could be located south of the building. That's the purple area. And then there's a band area, which is just generally located on the south side of the property between the duplex and the tent and standing room area. So that's the band location there is primarily just focused just south of the seating and the standing room and tent table area. So Mr. Budiak does own the duplex. So basically he owns all the properties in question here, all of which are zone C2. And again, we do have a special use for outdoor extension of premise. So be that as it may, the license that he's applied for the outdoor extension is within the clerk's office now, and they're going to get that on the next council agenda for June 2nd for consideration and discussion at that point. So we're recommending approval. Again, before I get with the recommendation, but again, the terms of use are volunteered by Paul, May through September, 10 to 10, similar size tent. And then our recommendation is for approval, county council consideration before license and health committee, and then some site plan updates in terms of the operations. Again, customer recycling, waste receptacles, barricades at driveways, lighting plans, if any. So those are our general recommendations at this point. If there's any discussion.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions?
I just briefly, I think this should have come up on the last one, but where they're highlighting the band area, I mean, is that intended for live music outdoors? Is that something that anybody has any concern with as far as noise or like, I don't know what our responsibility is.
Yeah, it's I guess an obvious, potential for, a nuisance within the neighborhood if people, if it goes beyond a certain time and, people will complain. I guess we're trying to focus this upon, daytime hours, cut off at 10 p.m. I mean, certainly it's going to be up for council discretion. If they want to extend that a little further, they could. And I guess it's temporary. We're looking at the summer months. And again, it's maybe a little bit of a demonstration too. But at any point, I suppose the license and health committee, being a temporary license, if there were a big enough problem, I'm sure the city could revoke the license, and they could certainly follow up on that between now and the next council meeting.
We have had multiple events like this over a weekend and time, and we strictly adhere to like 15 minutes to a half hour before we are set to shut down. And we have a pretty good relationship with our neighbors, so they're aware of everything. That a lot of them come to the area, so it's kind of like their neighborhood church festival sometimes. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Any other questions from the members of the commission? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
move for approval. Frank, sorry.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second Kathleen.
Okay, any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Have a great
Thank you.
night.
See you,
Appreciate all
bye.
your hard work, Steve.
Good night. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Next up, we have item 5, signage plan for element 84.
Right, so this one's on from me. This is a sign plan appeal for element 84. For those, sorry, there's a cardinal right above me, you might hear it. For those plan commissioners who were here about a year ago, you might remember approving the signage for element 84. So you approved the first two. You'll see the number 1 referenced on the overhead view here. So for this sign appeal, they want to add a third sign. Important to note that the 3 signs combined are underneath the maximum allowed square footage for all the signs. They are, since their building is over 25,000 square feet, they qualify for the master sign program. So that's why they are allowed 200. So our sign code only allows 2 wall signs, but they are asking for us to allow them a 3rd wall sign. Since the signs aren't necessarily cluttered, they're not creating any nuisance to the neighborhood, staff recommends approval. Thanks.
Move approval.
Second, Kathleen.
We have a motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Degenhardt. Any other discussion on item 5?
Easy one.
I hear none, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Item 5 carries. Item 6 is a signage plan appeal for Northern Tool and Equipment on 610 South 108th Street.
This is a quick one, Mayor. They've asked to be tabled this evening.
Okay. Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second,
Clark and then Degenhardt.
Yep.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The item is tabled. Item 7 is the signage appeal for Lifeway Church at 7515 West National.
So very similar to element 84. Lifeway Church is now 414 Church is requesting a 3rd sign. So again, their signage combined comes out to less than the total wall signage allowed. So you'll see that staff already approved the icon sign overhead in the triangle space above their main entrance, and then the wall on the side of their or the sign on the side of their wall, and they want to add the 414 church logo right above their doorway.
Gotcha.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move approval.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Frank. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 If there's anyone opposed, please say no. Ayes have it. Item 7 carries. Item 8 would be a signage appeal for Dollar Tree at 10725 West Greenfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe Bob Kraus of Bauer Sign Company is with us, representing the applicant, which is Dollar Tree. They're interested in actually leasing the building at 10725 Greenfield Avenue, the former Walgreens. And this is an image of the building at that location. It's on the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway 100 and Greenfield. You can see maybe in some of the shadows there on the building, the former Walgreens signage here, and then actually over on this side as well. The Dollar Tree is basically going to be infilling within this building. We're using the existing space and all of about 13,000 square feet of the total building area, 9,000 square feet of which is going to be the retail portion. That remaining balance is storage and back office area. The reason for the appeal is that so our signage ordinance will allow up to 125 square feet of signage for this lot. It's a corner lot, and there's an existing monument sign on the corner of Highway 100 and Greenfield that Walgreens had in place. They're seeking to repanel that. That sign's actually 51 square feet. Our signage ordinance will allow up to 50 square feet. The other part, though, that's more, I guess, significantly over what the allowance of what our signage ordinance will allow are the two wall signs, both one on the north elevation and one on the west elevation facing Highway 100. Those two signs are each 96 square feet. So the total of signage, freestanding signage, as well as wall signage adds up to about 243 square feet. And that's about 118, almost, double the, signage for this site. We feel that staff doesn't support the change. I guess this is just a proposed image of what's proposed. Give you an idea of what's proposed here, but basically 32 feet long by about 36 inches tall, adds up to 96 square feet, both on the north and west sides. Closer view of the signage. And the nighttime view is this grayed out area here. So it will be illuminated at night. And this is the monument sign currently, the former Walgreens signage, which they'll be, they'd like to, of course, reuse and repanel it for Dollar Tree. So there's criteria within our signage ordinance for Plan Commission to consider. It's staff. Again, we just go through A, B, and C right now. The criteria: A is that the sign as proposed will not result in undue concentration of signage, which renders it difficult or confusing to read existing signs. Our concern is that what we note is that signage of this size will result in Dollar Tree having more than what the city code will allow. And there's other businesses in the city and similar corner lots, similar scale of building that do meet the ordinance. The Dollar Tree is asking for 120 square feet more than what's allowed. So we don't see the proportion of in terms of equity, what other businesses are allowed or have done. Why this one business should have much more. There's other similar intersections, Highway 100 in Oklahoma, Cleveland, where those businesses have complied with our ordinance, and we feel that it's important that Dollar Tree do the same. Part B, the criterion B, is that the proposed sign is unique and of exceptional design or style so as to enhance the area. In other words, and therefore, Plan Commission should give them additional area. We feel that the signage that's proposed is very typical, like that of any other retail business in the area. then, so part C criteria is that site difficulties, that there's some unusual circumstance or site factor that precludes the construction of a sign in accordance with the ordinance, which makes it hard to read or visible to the roadway adjacent to the site frontages. So this is a major intersection of Highway 100 and Greenfield, arguably probably the most intense intersection within the city, along a major corridor, Highway 100, which connects surrounding cities of Milwaukee, Wauwatosa, south through Greenfield, Hales Corners. It's a major thoroughfare, and the intersection alone sees massive amounts of traffic on a daily basis. This is not going to be a hard building to miss, nor is the signage even to ordinance. Is it going to be hard to read? The address label on the front of the building is actually visible from the opposite side of the intersection. So, and that's what's currently on the building. So, even in reducing what they've proposed to what the ordinance will allow is still going to be readable. So we don't see the hardship to warrant a variance or an appeal in this case.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we support the plan department's recommendation to deny.
I second that.
We have a motion with a second, Commissioner Clark and Commissioner Frank. Is there any other discussion on that motion? I don't know if the individual from Mr. Kraus from Bauer Sign Company had anything to add.
Not necessarily, no. We have understood Steve's position on that. We were just looking to get something that was consistent with the Walgreens signage from previous, just with the location of the building, the scale of the building, setback from the road. Just thought the sign was not obtrusive as far as the appearance or the aesthetic value that's there. I know the comments about surrounding sites, but I don't think any of them really have the scale of the building that's here, but we certainly understand the position.
Okay, thank you. If there is no other discussion or if there are no other questions on the motion, I will ask everybody in favor to signify by saying aye.
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 And if there's any opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Next, we will move on to item 9, an ordinance amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a ordinance amendment. The Safety and Development Committee of the Common Council had directed staff to prepare a draft ordinance for Planning Commission and Council consideration. In light of the uptick, I think the trend in terms of dollar stores nationwide, and sometimes the image that they create for cities, where that's the precedent, I guess, behind this ordinance. These are the current locations of stores, dollar stores, or I guess what we'll call nominal price retail stores within the city. There's about 6 locations ranging from the West Dallas Town Center, 71st in Lincoln, 76th in National, 96th in Greenfield, and then within the Southtown Shopping Center at Highway 100 in Oklahoma. Most of these businesses are all located, east of Highway 100 for the most part. I mean, you do have a couple west of 76th Street, but currently one on Highway 100. But again, the concern here is that just trying to maintain the image, and that certainly these businesses are welcome within the city, but we want to have some control so they're not proliferating throughout, and then thereby taking away the market from other grocers. It has an effect perhaps on employment, where the grocery store will offer not only the fresh produce, whereas within some of these stores, the nominal price retail stores, they're prepackaged food and of sometimes lesser quality. So That and the employment numbers are much less than that of a typical grocer. So the ordinance that has been put together, there's a copy of it in your staff report, but basically what's summarized here is that what we're doing is defining what a nominal price store is. The second part is that we're going to limit these, what we're proposing to do is limit them to the C4 regional commercial zoning district, and that's shown on the map on your right. And then third, establish a separation between stores within that zoning district of 1,000 feet. And then the definition of what we're calling a dollar store, a nominal price retail store, is a business that primarily offers or advertises for sale to the public inexpensive general merchandise at a price of $10 or less per item. So with that, I mean, we're happy to discuss this further and answer any questions as best I can, but a public hearing will be brought before the Common Council on June 16th for consideration. And I guess all these things are on the table right now. If the Plan Commission has any desire to express its any directive, we're all ears.
Mr. Mayor, a question for Steve, please. Steve, what do any of the surrounding neighborhoods, communities have an existing ordinance like this?
Not that I'm aware of, Wayne. I can certainly do another look, but what I have not noticed something like this in, say, Milwaukee or Wauwatosa.
Stepping back, then, what is the driving force for us to do this if no one else is doing it?
First off, I've been directed by the Safety and Development Committee. Okay, Mayor, sorry.
Yeah, it pretty much me, Wayne. I actually had read a few articles in other states about communities taking action on either spacing them out so they're not saturated. I know one, I won't name which one, but one of the ones on the map has been a disaster to deal with as far as overflowing trash. People just not higher than average percentage of thefts and police calls. And then Steve kind of talked a little bit too about the, and this isn't so much in our area because we have a farmer's market, in our city, but a lot of other things were driving other communities. A lot of other things that were driving the other communities were because of food deserts, and just that did not give any families in lower to moderate income areas access to fresh food or basically unprocessed food. I realize there's a market for these, and I realize that there are people that like to shop at Dollar Tree, Dollar General, but I also think that too many of them does hurt the mom and pop shops, does hurt the Rupinas in our community, the Parthenon Foods stores in our communities. Really just faceless chain impacts the locals. So that was why I brought this to the Safety and Development Committee, and they kind of agreed to go along and to take some action.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think you make a great point. However, I'd like to ask, has this been reviewed with the city attorney when we get sued?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I think we'll give the second to Commissioner Dagenhart. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up will be item 10.
So this is just a quick communication just to keep you all in the loop about an exciting project that planning staff is working on. Can we go to the next slide, please?
I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
Oh.
No, wait. I have item 11 as active streets. I have item 10 as a moratorium on warehousing and self-storage.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Am I on the wrong agenda?
Nope, that's fine. You're right.
Okay.
Tony, why don't you?
You can continue, Tony, then we'll just go back to item.
So the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County Parks have started a program called Active Streets, where they basically close down a street to motor vehicle traffic as a through traffic. but opening it up for people to recreate. So in light of the pandemic and social distancing, we want people to have the opportunity to not cluster themselves in parks and sidewalks and have a wide open street to be able to walk, bike, roll, and just get some exercise. So can you go to the next slide, please? We're proposing to partially close down the Root River Parkway, which connects both ends of the Oak Leaf Trail. You'll see that they're in different colors. So parts of the street are open to local traffic only, and some will be closed to all traffic except for city services and emergency vehicles. So just wanted to keep you all in the loop and let you know that we're working on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions?
Good idea.
All right. Thank you. Now, item 10.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So I don't have a slide for this, but the city council has passed a moratorium, which is basically, let me just say, a moratorium on warehousing, self-storage, and vehicle leasing within a specific area of Highway 100, just north of Greenfield Avenue, basically from Washington Street, where U-Haul is, north to the city limits on the east side of Highway 100. In that area, which is just south of I-94, you have everything from a doggy daycare, a Gray Bar Electric, the former Hobo retail store, and then U-Haul. It's our understanding that U-Haul has purchased the former Hobo property, and so the Safety and Development Committee suggested that we, approve, basically council approved the moratorium, which for about 60 days, which will be in effect, basically no occupancy permits or permits would be issued temporarily within that period of time for those uses: warehousing, vehicle sales and leasing, and self-storage, while we take a closer look at that area. The zoning of that area is zone manufacturing. The future land use plan, though, calls for it to be used as commercial reuses. And as part of our Highway 100 corridor plan, we're looking at some different ideas for the Highway 100 corridor in total, being, there's definitely capacity for different destination types of uses, housing opportunities, senior housing, medical office buildings, and event spaces, as well as retail and office. So we're looking at some different options. We feel a commercial zoning would better fit that area, as well as the image as you enter upon the city. It's a gateway of sorts as you come across the bridge out of off of 94 or from Owatosa into the city. We see it as a definite opportunity for some different uses. So we're gonna perhaps come back to you. We're going to be discussing this with Common Council and be coming back to you possibly with an ordinance to rezone the area from manufacturing to commercial use.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone have questions? Okay. Hearing no questions, then the last bit is Wallpapered Cities project.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we've given this committee an update to date yet, but the city is working with the organization Wallpapered City. They're responsible for some of the really cool murals that you've seen around town. Black Cat Alley is in Milwaukee is particularly popular. And then this, the image of the woman on the right-hand side here that you can see along the highway if you're driving by. And so we have partnered with them to do some murals within the city of West Allis. And right now the concentration is going to be in the downtown and the 6th area. We're currently working with property owners to get those contracts signed. We do have a few signed and returned, so that's great news. One of the major buildings that we're doing is the Lamplight building downtown. If you're familiar with it, it's the senior living facility, and it has a huge blank canvas of a wall along Greenfield Avenue. So we are doing a specific call to hire for an artist for that particular building, just because the scale is so large. We want to make sure it's someone who can handle that type of work. And then the rest of them, we will do a general call for artists. I believe our current plan is to have 5 murals total. Does that sound correct, Mayor and Steve?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
sounds
so I
right.
think it's 5 total. And yeah, as this project moves forward, we'll keep you updated. But the original plan was to have some sort of major event where all the artists came in, all the walls are painted. It could be a community event and you know, sort of a celebration of art and culture in the city. Unfortunately, due to the current circumstances, we are now going to have each artist in each building worked on during a 2-week period that's spread out over the course of the summer, so that people can congregate a little more slowly and check them out as they're being developed, instead of having one giant community celebration. So that's a little unfortunate. But the end result is still going to be really amazing and beautiful. So we'll keep you posted. And yeah, we really look forward to getting this one done.
Perfect.
Thanks, Katie. Any questions from the commission? Okay. That does conclude our agenda this evening. If there's nothing else to come for us, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
The motion by Commissioner Frank.
I'll
Do we have
second.
a second by Commissioner Eric Torkelson? Thank you. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody,
Sorry again about the delay.
for bearing with us.